Hello.
And you adjust your light a little bit. Some days you look incredibly gorgeous, and today is one of them.
Oh. Oh, thank you.
It takes me a long time to work it with.
I want to do this
Looking all
first.
right. What's that? Oh, yeah.
John Fusco's first record.
Woo!
And guess who got the cover? Ah. Isn't that wild?
That's great.
Yeah.
It's a really good record, too.
Oh, yeah, it's a really good
he's,
record.
He's doing John the Revelator on there.
Yeah.
You know, we have done John the Revelator a couple of times.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad.
his version, I love his version of John the Revelator.
Yeah.
So, yeah, hopefully we'll see him again soon. And maybe go to another premiere. Boy, that was fun.
Wasn't that fun? Yeah.
Watching Costner eating,
Kevin Costner
eating popcorn in front of me, watching himself.
Yeah, licking his fingers. You know you're in the middle of the movie stars when you got Kevin Costner over here, and you've got Woody Harrelson over here. You know, it's like
Kathy Bates.
Huh?
Kathy Bates.
Oh, and Catherine Bates. Yeah, they're all lovely people. You know.
Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I wanted to ask you about your good time, long-time friend of yours, Jim Keltner. You haven't
Oh,
Jim Keltner.
Lord.
He's such a great guy.
Yeah, he's another Tulsa guy.
I did not know he was from Tulsa.
Yeah, and
he
he's
was
still
Keltner.
he's still with his wife. They went to high school together, and he's been with the same person for all.
When was the
these
first time
years.
you met Jim Keltner?
Well, when I went out to California, and it was with Delaney and Bonnie. You know, he was part of the scene. Keltner was, and you know, he was our drummer. So Jimmy Carstein was the original drummer, a Tulsa guy, all right. And then Keltner became our drummer with Delaney, Bonnie and Friends, another Tulsa guy. And then he gave the spot up for Jim Gordon, you know, to be with Delaney and Bonnie. And oh man, Keltner, his thing was, Delaney told me, he said he hears, because I couldn't figure out why suddenly we have Jim Gordon in our band.
Right.
You know, and it was a different, what Keltner did.
He's very musical.
There was a musical reasoning behind everything, and I understood that. There was some musical logic behind everything Delaney did or orchestrated. There was a key to something. Well, this is a key that I'd never, because I'm used to Al Jackson, and Howard Grimes, you know, laying it down in Memphis. And then when we get out here, Keltner had a different touch. He heard everything. He heard everything that everybody was doing, you know, and not hear it just like the audible of it, but the essence of it.
Right.
He heard that, you see. And so a lot of his playing, he gets so involved musically. He's a real musical drummer, you know, and it's like this, floats like a butterfly and stings like a bee, all right? And boy, when that snare comes on alive, it's like, pow, you know? But it's just like, Keltner will play with his fingers. He'll do things that are really just to suit the atmosphere of the song. And Jim Gordon, we had a band with horns and, you know, I mean, it was like a kicking band. And Jim Gordon was just the drummer, the right drummer for Delaney and Bonnie and Friends, you know. Keltner said it, you know.
Yeah, Jim Gordon was more like a freight train kind
Oh,
of
he was. He was a freight train. He was the engine of it, you know. And man, that guy, and it's not volume, and it's technique and the way he played. Not technique. I hate that word. Touch and feel. Jim Gordon just came from another school, and he locked that thing in on. Listen to California Dreamin' album. That's all Jim Gordon on that. I didn't know it until he told me after we was with Derek and the Dominoes. I mean, but this guy had a way of fitting everybody that he played with he could go right to their heart and he could drive them too. You know, he did all this incredible percussion stuff, you know. So when he came to be with us, Hollywood Jim, you know, Skippy as Frank Zappa called him, clean cut, you know. Oh, really, he didn't look like he just come out, bought his clothes out of a magazine, you know, one of those
Right.
with not really good taste either, you know. But man, when he kicked it down, forget about it. The whole thing. I mean, so we had Carl and Jim, and Carl was right on Jim's kick drum. Boom. I mean, that band moved fixed stages. And when at the time we had Dave Mason, George Harrison, and Eric Clapton were our guitar players on one of our one and only European tour. Lord have mercy, we did. We played halls, you know, old auditoriums, and they had fixed stages were part of the building, and you could see the speakers moving, you know.
I read where that tour was only 3 weeks.
Yeah, it wasn't very long. No. And it didn't take them that long to
Right.
do what needed to be done.
Well, and getting back to Jim Keltner again, he was on the original Delaney and Bonnie.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
song that really always stuck out in my mind with him playing was "We've Got to Get Ourselves Together" in that intro. Diddle 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 diddle.
Yeah.
Boy, that intro with Jim Keltner was just beautiful.
Yeah, well, all of the things that he did were just pretty amazing. So, see, for that album wasn't a freight train album, you know?
But I mean, who came up with that intro? Was that a Delaney intro, or is that
The melody
"We've
of
got to
it?
get ourselves together" in the
Yeah,
intro?
I would imagine it's either Delaney or Jerry McGee, you know. It's
But the drums are playing right there.
well,
It was
yeah,
just
well,
so
that would
great.
be Jim's thing. I mean, he took care of the drums. Delaney never told anybody what to do. He always had to. He told me, surround yourself with people as good as you are. I took that advice a step further, and I surrounded myself with people who are better at doing what they do as I am doing what I'm doing, and so that takes a little bit of the burden off, you know.
And Jim has played on several of your recordings,
Yeah.
aside from the Delaney and
My
Bonnie.
first album, Jim was on.
Up to the 80s. I'm talking about
Yeah.
Jim Keltner here.
Yeah. He played. Jack Timson, my songwriting buddy, he wrote "Peaceful, Easy Feeling." Well, we wrote a pocket full of songs one time when I was out in California, and just record them for no particular reason. We went into a Westlake Village Recorders when it still had toe sack on the wall, kind of like an old Criteria thing with the dominoes. But Keltner was on drums. Tim Drummond, Bob Dylan's bass player, played bass. Steve Cropper and me, and that was it.
Did you mention Jim Horn was on there as well?
Well, I think he was on a couple of songs as well, and
Well,
Jim Horn.
We did.
And we had Ronnie Capone, the great engineer from Stax. You know, he was the engineer. He was the one that got all that sound at Stax
Right.
out of a 4-track machine. You know, Ronnie Capone was the guy. You know,
Magic Ears.
He had it. He sure did. Rest his soul. He was a good man. He wasn't but about that tall.
Oh.
Yeah, he was like 4'11" or something, but he didn't have
Was
that.
he related to Al Capone?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, he was. He was like his great uncle or something, you know.
How could you not have a name Capone and not be related?
Well, all the Whitlocks are related, you know, somehow or other. Find out,
It's not quite the same as Capone.
no, but I mean, it comes. It has the same kind of impact on some people, anyway. You know.
Who were some of the actors that you met out there and when you were in Hollywood? I mean, I've met so many, but anybody that is memorable to you? Because Delaney always had.
Well,
actor
everybody.
friends
See, when we were Delaney and Bonnie friends, everybody from the Mamas and the Papas to the Doors to what's his name, Michael Parks is an actor who is to be the next James Dean. But I mean, we had they would come in one door and out the other. It was a constant flow of
Eddie Olmos.
Eddie Almost James.
Yes, I just remember.
You
that.
know what? He lived across the street from Delaney and Bonnie on Matilaha. He lived across the street and back in the back of this lot. You know, it was he and his wife. And
Kai. Was it Kai?
Huh?
Kai? Was it Kai or Kaya or something?
Kaya.
Kaya.
And her dad was Howard Keel. You know, it's Oklahoma. that was her dad. But anyway, yeah, I knew him for a long time. Had dinner over at their house and everything. His mom would cook a bunch of stuff.
He wanted to be a musician so bad.
Oh, he wanted to be a musician so bad, and he looked the part. You know, he had the long hair and everything. And anyway, I knew him real well, and had hung out a lot, even at their house and stuff. And he was always there at Delaney's, you know,
Yeah.
every time he turned around. Well, you know, life went on. Derek and the Dominoes happened. It was over. I wound up in Macon, Georgia, and I'm watching this Miami Vice, and I go, these people look familiar. I don't know what it is. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I used to watch Miami Vice. That's when I was signed with Capricorn.
I know you still
and,
do cuffs.
Well, and then one day, up rolled Donnie Johnson.
You mean Don Johnson?
Yeah, Donnie Johnson then. It was Donnie Johnson is how he introduced himself.
The actor.
Yeah, the actor, Don Johnson. And I didn't think much about him having beer in my front yard, you know, and hanging out with Dickie
You didn't know
Jackson.
who he was?
No, I didn't know who he was. And I've been watching him every week. I didn't know, but there was always something that was kind of familiar. Like, I'm really good with names and faces. It just takes me a while putting them together sometimes. But I've been watching this for the longest. And here he was. You know, I knew Eddie James, and then here was Donnie Johnson. And we had a lot of fun talking about stuff I won't even, you know, talk about. But he was quite a character. But there's something familiarity about him. I just couldn't quite put my finger on. Well, he left and everything. And went in. It was a Saturday night. Flipped on the TV. And I'm like da 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 da, whatever the song.
That's not it.
That ain't it, but it's one of them.
That's
you know?
Hawaii Five-0.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. You know, just a different era. But and it showed them all again. You know, in the front. There was. Edward James Olmos. Man, he looks a lot like Eddie James, you know. And then here comes Don Johnson, and I went, "That's Donnie Johnson." And then all of a sudden, I got it all together, you know. But it was too late. He was gone, and I hadn't seen Eddie James in years, you know.
Or Donnie.
Or Donnie. It's a fun